What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Living Free channel. My name is Tyler Freed, and right now I'm going around Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm headed to Indianapolis, Indiana. I got a pretty good load to top off the miles for the week. And so, in this video, I'm going to be explaining how I was able to save up and buy a truck cash, how I became an owner-operator without taking out any loans, without leasing a truck. I'm going to be explaining how I did that and my thought process on how to do that. If you're somebody that is interested in ever becoming an owner-operator, in just a business owner in the trucking industry, I'm going to be explaining to you my thought process and actually exactly how I went about going to do that. So if you're new to the channel, I appreciate you for being here. Make sure you like the video, you sub to the channel, you stay tuned till the very end so you can hear the entire point I'm going to make. If you're already subscribed, like the video. It helps grow the channel when you do that, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to get right into the topic, so don't worry. So I'm going to take it back all the way to before I even started out in trucking. I'm going to take it way back to that, right? And the reason I'm going to do that, because I always talk about on this channel how it's so important for you to begin with the end in mind. You need to know what you're trying to accomplish with this career, with trucking. Now, I believe that about any career, but especially in trucking, and it's what I do, so that's why I'm talking about it from this perspective. Before you get into trucking, in order to make it financially pay off, in order to make it worth your while, you have to begin that career with the end in mind. You have to know what you want to do with it. So before I got into trucking, I knew that I wanted to buy a truck one day. I knew I wanted to become an owner-operator, possibly even a fleet owner. But I also knew that you need to have a lot of money to be able to buy the equipment and have enough money to cover any expenses, any emergencies that could go wrong with that equipment, and just have enough capital to run your business efficiently. Most companies fail in America, not just in trucking, and this is a statistical fact. 90% of small businesses fail after 5 years. And that's the same in trucking. It's the same numbers apply. And so why is that? I really believe because they are underfunded. They're undercapitalized. They go deeply into debt to start that business, and their costs are too high. It's that simple. So what is the point that I'm making? I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I wanted to be an owner-operator because I knew that if I could become that I could make a lot of money. I knew, and if I did it the right way, I could make a lot of money. And so I'm like, okay. Now, I was already a Dave Ramsey follower. Now, I don't agree with Dave on everything, but I do agree with him on being out of debt, not using debt to start businesses, not using debt at all, just getting and staying out of debt and having cash to cover your expenses, living your life debt-free. I 100% agree with Dave on that. And I actually do agree with him in most cases on not even using debt to start a business. I actually agree with him on that as well, especially in the trucking industry. And so I knew, okay, that's my goal. I want to become an owner-operator, but I do not want to go into debt to become that. So what can I do? Well, I can go get my CDL, and I see that truck drivers, if you're willing to work your butt off, you can make $100,000 a year just by being a company driver. I already saw the type of money you could make once you got your experience. You can make $100,000 a year without even buying a truck, right? And it can be well over $100,000 if I am able to save up and pay cash for a truck. I can make well into the six figures by doing that, but it's going to take me time to save up enough money to be able to buy that equipment and become an owner-operator. But I was not going to go into debt and have a high cost of operation business just so I could be an owner-operator. So what did I need to do? I needed to learn about how to budget. I needed to also be completely out of debt personally. If you're somebody that wants to be an owner-operator, but you have $100,000 in personal debt, don't even think about doing that. Get into trucking and use that money to pay off all your debt. Let's say, hypothetically, you are out of debt and you are beginning in trucking, right? Well, the first thing I would do is set up a savings account and save up 6 months worth of living expenses for your personal life. You build an emergency fund from your job, 6 months worth of expenses, an emergency fund for you, the person. Then above that, you're out of debt, you have an emergency fund. Then above that, that's where I would open a separate account from the emergency fund and fund that account so that you can buy a truck in cash. Why am I telling you to do that? Well, that's because that is what I did. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is not specific advice. It's just what I did, but I'm explaining how I was able to save up and pay cash for a truck. Now, I've been driving company for 5 years, for context, and no, it did not take me 5 years to save up and to have enough money to become an owner-operator. But I'll explain that later, that you don't have to wait 5 years to do so. You don't. But I did it, and I'll explain here in a little bit why I did it that way. But moral of the story, if you're going to do this, this is how I went about doing it, and this is how I would go about doing it if I were anybody. If I could tell you what to do, that's what I would tell you to do. So, you have that 6-month emergency fund, you're out of debt, this is for your personal situation. Above that, now you're ready to start saving towards starting a business. You have that separate account open. Okay, well, let's say you started out in trucking, you had no debt, and in your first year, you're building your emergency fund, right? Okay, you should be able to save a 6-month emergency fund in cash in a savings account after 1 year. And in your first year too in trucking, you're just trying to get your experience. You're making decent money. You're probably making more money than you've ever made in your life, and you're able to save money. You're able to build that emergency fund. But you're not going to make $100 grand a year in your first year, more than likely, unless you're in some type of special situation to start with. But 9 times out of 10, 9 drivers out of 10 just starting out aren't going to make that kind of money. But after the 1 year mark, once you have a year under your belt and you have a safe record, a safe, clean background, your license is clean, you can go to a company that requires more experience, and they pay a much higher rate per mile. They pay more because you have that experience and you've proven yourself to be a safe driver. Now you can go out, instead of making $60,000 a year, you can make $80,000 to $100,000 a year. And if you go get your endorsements and all that, you can definitely make 6 figures a year, 100% as a company driver. Are you going to have to go out there and run and hustle? Absolutely. But if you're going to go out and start a business, you better be a hustler, because if you're not a hustler, you're going to fail in that business, and you should just stay a company driver if you plan on not working very hard. That's probably not a good idea. So that's not who this video is for. But moral of the story, you get in, you get that year of experience. In your first year, either be paying off debt or building an emergency fund. Hopefully you're out of debt. This is just an example, though, of just some random person that's hypothetically out of debt, right? They have that emergency fund. Okay, after a year, now you're starting to make a little bit more money, and you're able to make enough money to where, okay, I got this emergency fund. I can save, let's call it $25,000 a year, and I'm going to put that in this other account. Let's say I can save $25,000. Is that realistic? Being out of debt, making $80,000 to $100,000 a year, living on less than you make, and driving a truck over the road, could you save $2 grand a month? Pretty much. Could you do that? And if you did that for 4 years, you would have $100,000 saved after 4 years. If you invest that money, not going to tell you to do that, but if you were to invest that money, you could actually have even more than that if you invested wisely. But let's just do simple numbers. Let's say you save, about $2,000 a month. Let's just call it round up. Let's say you have $100,000 after 4 years, right? Well, a good used truck goes for about $60,000 to $70,000. You can get a good used truck. You could even pay less than that if you find a good deal. But let's say you pay $60,000. You can find one that's really a good truck for $60,000. I would recommend, and this is what I did. Again, this is what I did, and this is my thought process. I knew that I needed, above the price of the truck, I knew I needed about a $20,000 to $30,000 cash emergency fund so that I could cover any major repair on that equipment above the purchase price. So let's say I wanted to buy a truck that is selling for $60,000, but I need a $30,000 emergency fund. I need $90,000. Well, look, after 4 years, you were saving $25,000 a year. You now have $100,000. You have enough money to go pay cash for the truck, plus have an emergency fund. Now you are set up in a good position to own a business. Okay, now what did I do? I said I would explain what I did. I did go into trucking. I was out of debt when I got into trucking. Now in the first year, I used that first year to build a 6-month emergency fund. And then it took me about 6 to 7 months to do that. I was just working my face off, saving as much as I can. Once I had that in place, then I started to save and invest in the stock market 50 to 60% of my income. And I say 50 to 60 because half of my paychecks I saved and invested those, and any bonuses I got, I would save 100% of those. So it was between 50 and 60% of my income that I was putting away once I built that emergency fund. So I did that for about 4.5 years, where I was just plowing money into the market, right? Now, I knew that a lot of that money that I had invested in the market, I was going to cash out and use to buy a truck. But I also had a goal. Why did it take me 5 years? Because a lot of you could save more than $2,000 a month. I'm being very conservative with this number. I know a lot of you could save $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, because some of you that get into trucking are living in your truck, which is very smart to do, especially if you're single or you have your girlfriend or your significant other with you, right? You have your wife or husband with you if you're a female driver, whatever. Man, you can pile away money by not living in a place. But let's just say, for simple math, right, and being very conservative, I think realistically, even by having a house and the regular bills that people have, you could save $2,000 a month if you're out of debt, 100% as a driver. You can do that if you get out here and run. So yeah, that's $100,000 after 4 years, roughly, about $100,000. That's enough to go out and be an owner-operator, debt-free. Why did I not do it? Now, I had the $100,000. I had that after a couple of years. I already had that, but I did not want to cash out more than 50% of my invested portfolio to start a business. And why did I not do it that way? And I'm not telling you to do it that way. Really, this whole video is all my opinion, and that's for the people that can't understand that are going to comment on this video. But I did not want to cash out more than half of my invested portfolio in the stock market, because I know that starting your own business is a lot higher risk than investing in a broad-based, low-cost index fund, which for those of you that do watch my videos, you do know that is what I invested. That's my primary investment vehicle. And I still am an investor in the stock market. Most of my money was not put into this business to start it. And I did that, again, for a reason, because let's say I do fail. It's always a possibility. Let's say I do fail. I still have that money invested, that passive money, that passive income working for me. That investment I don't have to work for. Trucking is an active investment. Yeah, I can make a lot more in my own business than just buying an index fund, but there's also higher risk. So again, I didn't want to put all of my money into the higher risk play, even though I know that it could actually make me a lot more money than the passive investment. You just kind of have to look at what your situation and say, okay, what's the risk reward, right? If I can get, 12% a year, 10 to 12% a year, just buying an S&P 500 index fund, or I can take my money and invest in a trucking business and make 50% on my invested money, 50% a year, or 30% a year, that's well worth it to me, because let's say I can make 30% a year by owning a truck. And when I say 30%, I mean you drive that truck that you bought and you pay yourself what you would be making as a high-paid company driver. Whatever your rate is right now at your company, you would need to know, okay, what do I make as an owner-operator above what I could make as a company driver? Whatever's above that, you annualize that, and you figure out, okay, I invested this much money to start the business, and I'm making this percentage rate of return, and so that gives you your true profit above what you can make as a company driver. If that number is not at least double what you could get in a passive investment, I would not be an owner-operator. That's why I strongly recommend, if you're going to be an owner-operator, do not go into debt, because going into debt will significantly cut into your actual rate of return. It will, 100%. So that's why I don't think it's worth it if you're going to do that. But again, this is all my thought process, and this is how I went about doing it. And so, long story short, I got into trucking. I had a plan. I had a goal. Then I created a plan saying, hey, I'm going to get out of debt, stay out of debt, build an emergency fund for me personally. Then I'm going to start saving towards starting a business. And for those of you that don't care about, investing in the stock market, you just want to get your business started, you can do it in a shorter amount of time than I did. 100% you could, because it doesn't take 5 years to save up and pay cash for a truck. If you save very aggressively, you can do that, because again, if that's your goal, you will be going and finding the best paying company job you can. You will be living on less than you make, and you will be saving as much as you can. And just do the math. Whatever you can realistically save per month, you multiply that by 12, and then you see, okay, I need X amount of dollars to start this. Okay, it'll take me 2 years, 3 years, year and a half. I don't know. It depends on you. It depends on how much money you're making. It depends on your expenses. It depends on how badly you want to do this. Moral of the story, how badly you want to do this. And I know now that being in the owner-operator space here on YouTube, there's going to be people that get on here and want to argue with me, and I'm just going to tell you, look, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm happy for the position I'm in. I am blessed to be in the position I'm in, and I've worked my face off for the last 5 years to be in the position I am in, and I thank God every day for it. And so I don't really care what y'all think. Any of the haters that want to comment on this video, I don't care what y'all think. And I know 90% of you that comment are supporters, and I really appreciate y'all. But I did want to make a video on the financial thought process that I had going into trucking, and just kind of the formula that I had to actually get to this point. So, I hope y'all all enjoyed this video. I really appreciate you for watching this video. Again, if you stay tuned this far, dang, I really appreciate it. Subscribe, like the video, and stay tuned for more videos like this in the future. God bless, and peace out.